Amazing, April. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh,
So
I'm
good.
happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so good to see you. Well, I'm really excited to I know we chatted, but I'm just excited to get to know you a little bit more, just chat about your journey. You've got an incredible journey, so I'm just excited to get going with this because I know the viewers will want to hear more about your story. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Experts podcast. So truly grateful to have each and every one of you who join us each and every week, and we are so grateful. But without you, the viewers, there would not be a show. So I want you to, if you have gotten value from the show, from the amazing guests that we've had so far, I want you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I want you to click the link in the button below, subscribe to the channel, so that in this way, it will really help us to bring other amazing guests and bring value to you as well. So I am looking forward. Our guest today is the amazing April Porter. But April Porter, she has such an amazing journey that is just incredible. If you are wanting to start a business, if you are a startup, you are looking to start a business, how to the day-to-day operations of a business, what is required, what you need to do, and you want to get into a franchise, well, April is the expert who will talk to you and guide you through as to what is required. So let's get started. April is a former prosecutor who turned a franchisee phenomenal. She has scaled and expanded into 4 locations who have done and performed incredibly well. April is the founder of Secret Source. Now, Secret Source is a business intelligence agency who is helping small business owners to escape burnout, to help them to scale their business and also with structure. Now, April also helps small business owners to who have gone through failures and helping them to navigate how they can start by thinking to be a CEO entrepreneur. April, welcome to the show. So good to see you.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Alka.
Well, I want you to first of all, for the viewers to just get to know you a little bit more, if you can just tell us your backstory. How did you get started? You were a prosecutor. So can you just share your story and then we'll just take it from there?
Sure. Well, like most entrepreneurs, I didn't just wake up one day and decide, I want to be an entrepreneur. It showed up in little ways throughout my whole life, that entrepreneurial spirit. And so while I chose to go to law school and ultimately to become a prosecutor, I was never content just working that 9 to 5. So I always had a side gig, right? I was selling skincare. I was one of the top recruiters in the company for skincare and sales. I was teaching fitness or dance on the side, so I always had these little things I was doing. And ultimately, I was a prosecutor for about 10 years. I was very, very good at my job. And the unfortunate thing, when you're a good prosecutor, that means you get really horrible cases because those people don't want to plead guilty, and the office needs you to go to trial and attempt to prosecute them. So I was dealing with heavy subject matter on a daily basis: sexual assaults, child abuse, homicides, and domestic violence. That was my caseload. And after 10 years, I really just wanted to do something lighter. I wanted to feel more like my happy go lucky cheerleader self again. And saw that I had some friends across the state. I live in Missouri. So on the other side of the state is Kansas City. And they'd opened a kickboxing gym. And I found out it was a franchise. And I had already been teaching fitness. I knew a lot about fitness and I had the entrepreneurial spirit. So rather than go get a boring attorney job reading contracts somewhere, I decided to take a risk and to jump into franchise ownership as a kickboxing owner, gym owner. And when I did that, I took a look at the life that I wanted and realized if I were to just open one location, basically I would be buying myself a job. And so I would have to open multiple locations if I were to build a life of what I call swag, which stands for sanity, wealth, and gratitude. And I believe that's what we're all looking for as business owners, is a life of sanity, wealth, and gratitude. And so I agreed to open three. I had no idea how to be a business owner. I thought the franchisor was going to teach me how to be a business owner.
Mhm.
And when I got in, I found out that that's actually not what franchisors do. They teach you how to be an operator of a particular business model. And so, after 3 months following the franchisor's operational training, we
Mhm.
were profitable. But I knew I had two more locations to open and I couldn't be in three places at once. So I knew I had to figure out how to scale and how to do it differently. And so I started investing in different coaches and ultimately did figure that out and grew to four locations in less than 3 years. And ultimately, out of 800 locations between Canada and the US, I was the only franchisee out of 800 to own four or more locations, have them all consistently performing in the top 20% revenue earners across the brand, and not work in my gyms. I was the only one. So,
That's incredible.
yeah. So that's what got everybody talking, right? Everyone wanted to know, well, what's going on? Because we're running the exact same business. The model and how we were required to run it was exactly the same for everyone. So everybody was like, I don't understand. Why does your life look that way
Mhm.
with this model? In my life, I'm working 60 to 80 hours a week. I'm not making that type of money. Like, what are you doing differently? And that's when I really identified the franchise gap, which is that space between what the franchisor provides
Mhm.
and the life that the franchisee wants to live. And the only way to fill that gap is through business intelligence. And it's business intelligence that the franchisor can't provide because it requires way more resources then make sense for the franchisor as a business owner to invest in and to provide to franchisees. And because most of that transformation comes from within the franchisee, it's a different way of thinking, it's a different way of acting, it's a different way of reacting emotionally to things, of leading people and how you communicate. And all of those things are nuanced and they're different for every single person. And so you have to get outside coaching and education and feedback on what you're doing in order to make those behavioral changes that actually take you from being an operator into being an elite entrepreneur.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, it's also, fascinating. As we start with one career path, but that one career path can change. But what is incredible, if you can just share with us also the steps that you had taken. So you started from the courtroom into the boardroom, but what was that mindset? What was that mindset shift that was the defining moment for you where you said, okay, I'm going to leave a law, I'm going to take that risk, and I am going to venture into a business? What was that mindset shift like for you?
Well, like most people, as humans, we're extraordinarily motivated by the avoidance of pain. Even more so than the pursuit of pleasure. We are motivated by the avoidance of pain. So, like most people transitioning from a career into business ownership, I was more focused on escaping my job than I was necessarily of how far I could go when I made that initial decision. And the reason that for me it was a big shift is yes, I had the heavy subject matter, but I loved being a prosecutor. I love fighting for justice. I love fighting for the underdog. I will stand up for anybody that I feel is being mistreated or is being treated unfairly.
What
Um,
cases were you prosecuting on? What cases?
it, it was sexual assaults, child abuse, homicides. So it was the victims, the most vulnerable victims. And I loved it, but my working environment, my office environment was absolutely toxic. I had like my direct supervisor, it felt like every day she went out of her way to just demean people and make you feel terrible. And so working in that environment combined with the heavy subject matter, it was so, it created such a heavy weight on me. It made me feel like not who I was meant to be. And I remember driving into work, it takes me about 30 minutes from my home to where I worked. And I remember the closer I got to the office, the more my stomach would hurt.
Right, yeah.
And so when making that shift and taking on the risk of business ownership, was it a big risk? Yes. But the why I was willing to risk it all was because of the the position I was in my career, I didn't want to feel that way anymore. I wanted to escape that pain and have a life of joy, right?
Right.
So that was the shift in that moment. And then other shifts happen along the way, of course, but that was the big one in order to the catalyst to becoming a business owner.
Exactly. And becoming a business owner, I mean, it's never an easy ride. A lot of people assume, that path that they want to go on is easy, but it never is. But if you're willing, put in the work. You got to put in the work, whether it's, as a startup, a franchisee, you got to put in the work so that you're going to get the most out of it. If you think you want to start a business and it's going to be easy, it never is. And I think then, right, oftentimes it's not.
Well, here's what I think. I think people don't actually want to be business owners because they don't know what that means. They don't know what that looks like. They
Right.
don't know what their life will really be like as a business owner. What
Mhm.
people want is what they perceive as the business owner life,
Mm.
right? It's the same reason that people would go like study education in college, not because they truly wanted to be a teacher, but because they wanted to have summers off, right? And I'm not saying that's true of everybody who has a major in education, but there is a good portion of people who say, I want the job where I have summers off. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to be a teacher.
Mhm.
And and that's I think true in business ownership. And many people don't actually want to do the activities that a business owner has to do. Especially in creative businesses, right? I mean, if you're going into business and let's say you're going into a bakery because you love baking, well, chances are, if you love baking and decorating cakes, you don't love accounting and you don't love bookkeeping, but you have to do that if you're going to run a business,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You may not even like marketing. You might have accounting. Somebody might go in to a business where they're a tutor. They love the hands-on tutoring of the kids, but they have zero interest in putting their face on social media or doing a video or doing the accounting, right? Or managing employees. That could be a headache for people. And so
Mhm.
the reality is a lot of people don't realize they don't actually want to be a business owner until they already are a business owner. And that's a tough spot to be in, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, at that point in time, it's either sink or swim. So either you got to figure out how to love being a business owner and do the things that need to be done to get you to at least sustainability so that you have a sellable asset that'll help you get out of being a business owner,
Mhm.
or you learn to love it. You learn how you can be creative and where the places are that you can make the impact you're wanting to make, and then you hire and delegate the other stuff, right? So those are the two pathways that I see getting when people end up maybe disillusioned by what it really means to be a business owner.
Absolutely. Disillusioned. I think that is the word. Because, if you haven't seen the reality or if you haven't worked, with someone who runs businesses and you just assume that you want to get into business, could be a right business or a wrong business, but failures, you learn from your failures. What's the number one discipline? What's the number one operational discipline that you have seen with small business owners who have perhaps gone into a business? What's really required of them before they even start a franchisee? What is that number one discipline that can take them to, where they can go and to a successful business?
The number one thing is self awareness. You have to have disciplined self awareness where you're constantly challenging the way that you're thinking and
Mhm.
attempting to break those habits. We all have subconscious programming. We've been through experiences our whole life that have created neurons that dictate the way that we operate 90% of the time when we're not paying attention. And so we all have subconscious programming. The only way to learn how to become a business owner is to break those subconscious habits and patterns that are in our
Mhm.
actions that are
Mhm.
keeping us in the position of an employee, because that's what we've all been trained to do. So where business owners and franchisees go wrong is they open the business and they dive into the day-to-day doing. All the little things that feel urgent and that feel like they have to get done, otherwise I don't have a business. That's not wrong. But if you allow yourself to focus on those things and you're only looking at what do I have to do this afternoon? What do I have to do tomorrow? What's, in the next couple of weeks, that's as far out as you're looking. Well,
Yeah.
then you're missing the long-term vision of where you need to go for your business to be successful. And so you're not even contemplating, well, what are the bigger actions? What are the long-term
Yes.
actions that I have to be taking for that payoff? And so what happens is business owners never get around to taking any of those bigger actions, or to doing the things that have a longer gestation period, but ultimately will result in the highest return on that investment. And they just keep doing the little day-to-day stuff, and then they get stuck, their revenues plateau, they get burned out because they end up working 60, 80 hours a week trying to juggle all the balls. um, and so you have to be very self-aware. You have to be challenging and saying to yourself all the time, should I be doing this? Now, in my experience, too many business owners try to do that themselves. And the reality is like that's like trying to wipe dirt off your face without a mirror,
Mm,
right? It's like, is my face dirty? I don't even know. I can't see it. Well, let me wipe over here. I hope I got it.
right.
You have to have somebody who understands how to identify what you're doing and what impact it's having both in the short and long term, and that already knows the pieces of the puzzle that you're missing, so that they can put you on that trajectory faster. In my opinion, business education should be required if you want to open a business. Like, it's just like you have to get a driver's license to drive a car.
Right.
Yes, you have to get a business license for most jurisdictions, but literally you walk up to a counter and you pay a fee. Like, there should be a educational requirement that you have to meet in order to receive the business license, because you're putting your entire livelihood at risk,
Right.
and your families, your mental health, because if you start to get worried about failing, then you feel like you're disappointing your family.
Right.
It bleeds into everything of your life, and that's why entrepreneurs have a 30% higher rate of depression, divorce, and suicide, is because of these
Wow.
ripple effects.
Mhm.
So we could combat a lot of this if we just required an educational component and helped people really understand, one, what they're getting into, and
Mhm.
then two, how to ensure a higher probability of success, which is definitely with a coach or with education continuously throughout your business journey.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on two things that you mentioned. One was burnt out, and that is very, very common, with business owners. So let's talk about burnout. What are the steps or the strategies or the processes for our viewers listening? What can they do today that they can help to minimize on preventing burnout?
Well, the first thing I always tell my clients is you have to come to terms with the fact
Mhm.
that there will always be more to do.
Yeah,
Your list of to-dos will never actually be done.
exactly. Yeah.
It'll never be done. And we fool ourselves into thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I have to get this one more email out before I leave." Right? And you think it's going to take you 15 minutes and it takes you 45. And
Right.
now you're late to your kid's soccer game, and your spouse is upset, and your child might be upset, and even if they're okay with it, you feel guilty, you feel rushed, you feel overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And all of that leads to burnout. So you have to, number one, you have to come to terms with, there's always going to be more to do,
Yeah.
and most things can wait to tomorrow.
Yes.
And I
Absolutely.
don't say that for procrastination. That's not like, we don't want to procrastinate,
Yeah.
but we don't want to fool ourselves into thinking that it has to be done this minute when it doesn't. We want to have a realistic view of that.
Mhm.
So that's number one. Number two, and I mean, honestly, I teach a whole 6 month takes us with all of the different things we do to get over burnout, or to ensure burnout doesn't happen ever again in the future. But
Right.
these are some big ones. Number two is you have to learn how to delegate. And too many people are fooling themselves into believing that they are delegating. And the reality is there's a difference between delegation and effective delegation.
Mhm.
And too often, if people are delegating, they're filling up the time that they've freed up with tasks that are not moving the needle forward,
Mhm.
or they're filling it up with personal things because they feel like they finally got a breath and now I can get some of my personal stuff done.
Right.
So what happens is, either one of those scenarios, we've delegated stuff and now we don't see our revenues move. And when our revenues don't move, it tells us, oh my gosh, it's not working. I have to take it back over myself in order to make this work. And so then we stop trusting employees. We don't understand how to develop employees. We're taking everything back onto our own plates. And then there's no other end other than burnout at that point.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you got to take time. You got to take the time to say, well, you know what, there is, as you said, there's always tomorrow. And I was like that too, that, I had to get everything done. And then only recently did I begin to realize, no, wait a minute, it's my sanity, it's my health and well-being that I have to is paramount, and I've got to take care of that because there is always tomorrow. And this is exactly what I do. I just prioritize me time. I prioritize what needs to get done. And if I cannot get the other task done, I'm going to leave it for tomorrow, just mark it off for tomorrow. But that is exactly what we need to do. Absolutely. And the second point, you talked about business license. That is, it's very, very crucial to start a business, that they need to get a license. Now, let's talk a bit more about that, because as a prosecutor, as a former attorney, you know the legalities. What are the steps that people can take to get a business license? Is it some form of legal documents that perhaps they might need to sign? So can you just walk us through the steps perhaps that to obtain a business license and what's required?
Well, I mean, it does depend on jurisdictions, and
Right.
I know you're in Canada, so I can't speak to what it's like in Canada, but typically here, um, the first thing that you need to do is you need to get your business registered with the state as an entity, and you could have it registered as an LLC, a sole proprietorship, a partnership. So there's a lot of different ways, and it depends on your business structure. You want to consult with your attorney and your CPA. Many
Right.
times people go talk to their CPA about it. Your CPA is going to give you advice as far as how your taxes will work, but not necessarily about liability protections. Your
Yes.
attorney is going to give you advice as to liability protection. So you need to talk to both of them about your long-term goals for your business and short-term in order to figure out the right entity for you. But you've got to get your entity signed up or registered. You would also need to get a fictitious name registered if you're not going to be doing business in the name of your LLC. That is the case in franchises. You will
Mhm.
have an LLC and then you'll do business under the brand name, which is your fictitious name. You would then also need to have a EIN, which is an employment identification number. That is provided by the IRS here in the United States. So you have to apply for that and get your EIN number. There is no cost to get an EIN number, but you do have to register and go through that process.
I'm assuming, April, sorry to interrupt, but I'm assuming EIN is probably like in Canada, but it's like your SIN number. It's probably the
Yes, I'm
same.
sure that they're very similar. It's the way
Okay.
that your business is identified numerically for all of your governmental filings and your employment law
Yes.
filings and things like that. Yes.
Mhm.
So you have to have your EIN. If you sell anything that sales tax is required to be collected on, then you have to also file to get your sales tax registration.
Mhm.
So you have to do that. Often you need to have an operating agreement, even if you are the only owner of the business. You need to create an operating agreement. And you will need the operating agreement and your LLC registration and your EIN number to get a business bank account,
Right.
which which you would want to do as soon as possible. So if you get those three things done, the first thing you do is go get your business bank account, because when you go file for your business license, it's going to cost you money, and you want all of those expenses to come out of one bank account for accounting purposes and to show that there's no commingling of funds. So once your bank account signed up, then you can go get your business license. Typically, you do that at your local municipality. So here I live in a city that's inside a county, that's inside a state, that's inside the United States. So
Okay.
I have all levels of those government departments to work with. So I would go to my city clerk, file for the business license there. And occasionally, depending on your jurisdiction, you would also then need to file with your county and file a business property assessment if property taxes are collected on business property. So that would be the whole string of events just to get your typical license and certification set up in order to legitimately run your business. That doesn't include any of the additional industry regulations that you might have to comply with or other registrations you might have to do based upon the industry of your business.
Right. Exactly. So it's a long process. a long process. Um, Absolutely. So when it comes to scaling, let's talk about scaling the business. Now, you are a franchise operator and the exit strategy is to scale. You're helping small business owners to scale, escape burnout, scale with structure, scale with ease so that they don't get burnt out. Um, Most business owners do believe, though, April, to scale a business, that they have to do it themselves. Now, it's a myth as to how they're going to grow the business. How is it possible that can you walk us through the possible steps to grow a business, then to scale the business? What does it look like so that we can get a picture?
Well, it's a process, and you have to look at it like a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
And as our brains have been rewired for instant gratification because of social media, and like now our attention spans are shorter than ever, we're being rewired and programmed to expect instant gratification.
Mhm.
And in business, that is not the case. And so, again, that goes back to you have to deprogram those subconscious patterns and habits out of yourself if
Mhm.
you're going to be successful. But the process of growth comes first, then comes scaling. So you first have to grow your business. Ideally, you want to grow your business so you have at least a 10% profit in your business before you consider scaling. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they believe they're profitable, and I say believe because they don't know how to actually calculate their money. They don't know how to read their P&Ls. They don't understand how to predict future income based upon forecasting through marketing analytics and sales analytics and everything like that. So you want to ensure, so people end up trying to go to a second location, a second territory, or an expansion
Mm.
too soon when they really don't have the buffer of profit to support them through that scaling process. So the first goal you need to have is to get to 10% profitability. Next goal is to get to 15% profitability and earmark that additional 5% for reinvestment back into the business for scaling
Right.
or higher, obviously.
Right.
But
Mhm.
but but that's at the point when you're financially stable enough to scale. That doesn't mean you're operationally stable enough to scale. So when you're talking about scaling, that requires operationally what it requires is it requires two things, team and capital. We talked about the capital. The second part is team. You have to have a team, and that team needs to be developed, not trained. Too often we train a team, but we don't develop the business intelligence, the emotional intelligence, the leadership skills of our team
Mhm.
to match our own. So what I call that is an ownership cloning system. You need to have an ownership cloning system in place so that
Right.
every employee in your business is acting and reacting the way you would to any given situation. So you want them to be mini me's of you.
Mhm.
When you have a team of mini me's, guess what you just did? You just duplicated yourself.
Right.
So, I mean, right now, if you could rub a genie lamp and say, Genie, give me four more, Alkas to help me run my business,
Yeah.
man, that would be like a business on steroids. So
Right.
you need to do that with people. And when you have a team of mini me's and you have the capital, you're ready to scale into the next location. And then you repeat and then you do it again.
Exactly. So it's that rinse and repeat. But April, that's such a great point because when I was looking to open a fitness studio, and eventually I did open a fitness studio, um, a lot of my clients and people would tell me you should open another location. And oftentimes, when we listen to people, we might say, well, yeah, oh, that's a great idea. I think, I will look into it. And if you do then decide to open a second one, but then your first business hasn't really, hasn't really taken off, or it hasn't made the profits, it hasn't grown, that's a red flag because then you put in capital into the second business, but your first business hasn't really taken off. And when people would say that to me, and I thought, no, wait a minute, I have to grow my first business in order to acquire a second business because otherwise it doesn't really make sense. You're just wasting money at the same time because how
Oh,
do you
yeah.
I'm just wasting money.
I mean, some of the biggest mistakes I see business owners make are listening to customers.
Right.
I see way too many people saying, well, I'm going to ask my customers, how much would you be willing to pay for this?
Mm.
What? I mean, have you run a garage sale lately? I ran a garage sale a couple weeks ago. I haven't done one in years. But I was like, every person who walks onto my driveway is going to ask me if I would take less money for whatever it is I'm selling,
Right.
right? I
Uh-huh.
know that's going to happen. So why would I ever ask a customer, what would you be willing to spend on this?
I
They're never
know.
going to say, oh,
Yeah.
top dollar. I'd spend top dollar for that. Charge me more, right? But it happens in all areas of our business where
Mhm.
customers say, oh my gosh, this is great. You should add another class on Saturdays. And guess what's going to happen? That customer is going to go to the lake on Saturdays and they're going to go to kids' baseball games on
I
Saturdays.
know.
And
Yeah.
occasionally they might come in for a class. And you're going to do that and it's spread your business and spread your bandwidth, stretch your bandwidth farther, and they're not going to show up. And you're going to be like, you asked for this. And now here I am, burnout, spreading my resources thinner, and I can't make up the money for what it's costing me to do this. I see it happen all the time. And it just escalates as you get into like bigger and bigger moves, like your example of being encouraged to open another location.
Exactly. And I think, those are, business and life, they do collide, they go together. So it's almost like you're listening to your gut intuition. So whether, it doesn't matter what endeavor business you want to get into, but listen to your gut. If you feel that's not what you want to do right now, don't do it. And it's almost like, so what I'm trying to say is, as business and life, they are together, is pleasing, it's pleasing people. You will never, we will never sort of stop not pleasing someone because we think, okay, maybe that's the right guide, maybe that's the right what it's saying. We do need to do it, but listen to your gut because your gut will always tell you, where are the red flags to avoid.
I mean, I do agree with that for the most part, but I will say you have to be self-aware first because some people are very motivated by flattery. And so
Mm,
their gut is telling them, oh, I should probably do this. But you have to know, am I motivated by flattery? Then you have to do a check. Well,
true.
hold on a second. Am I doing this because it's the right business move? Or am I doing it because it feels like somebody told me I was good at it and that makes me feel really good. And now I feel super motivated to do it.
That is
Right.
true. Yes.
So we all have our own gaps. We all have our own, you know, faults, for lack of a better word. And if you're a people pleaser, that will sabotage you. If you
Yeah.
succumb to flattery, that will sabotage you. You have to know where your weak links are, be aware of them, and then challenge yourself when you're making a decision and say, okay, am I basing this decision on business data? What data did you look at?
Yeah.
Right? Or am I basing it on emotion, personal perception, and emotion? Anytime you're basing a decision on emotion, it's not the right decision.
It's not. And when you're looking at data, you can look at so many datas to like really compare, was that the right data? What's really relevant? And if it's irrelevant data, well, then it's not really gonna, that's not the right one. So going through, data and really sort of having that self-awareness is the crucial point. My final question, April, this has been such an amazing conversation. When the whole part about franchising, but the whole essence of starting a business really requires that, it's the lifeblood that we're putting our heart and soul into it. So when you're getting into a business, you got to make sure that all the boxes are ticked off. Like as you said, speak to your attorney, speak to a lawyer, speak to what would be the best lawyers that people can talk to when they're starting a business. Does it have to be a real estate lawyer, or what
Well, it
kind?
depends. It completely depends on the business that you're going into.
Right.
Like if you're a franchise, if you're going to buy a franchise, you need to find a franchisee specific attorney.
Okay.
Too often people go to a business attorney or they go to a franchise attorney, but that franchise attorney represents both franchisees and franchisors. Franchisees and franchisors are two parties, opposite parties to a contract. So
Right.
you want an attorney who has its sole focus on fighting for franchisees and getting you the very best terms in that contract and
Mhm.
being able to identify the red flags. So that would be true if you're Otherwise, you want a business attorney, not a, oh, my family law attorney said that they could help me do an entity. No, it's like a surgeon, right? You would never go to an orthopedic surgeon who does knee surgeries all day long and say, yeah, I want you to operate on my brain. That would be a bad idea,
Mm.
right? So same thing's true with attorneys. You want to find the person who's a specialist. Also, my recommendation would be that you find your business coach first. Now, this can be difficult because you don't know what you don't know, and you might it's hard to judge the right business coach. I would say listen to more podcasts, get a sense for how who's really intelligent in this space, and figure out there. But get your business coach first. A really great business coach, they know all the right people. They
Mhm.
have all the connections. Like, I have a suite of CPAs that I know every person I've ever sent them has never let me down. I have attorneys, same thing. I know who's good, I know who's bad, I know exactly who to send people to. My broker, I have a client, she has 8 franchise locations. I told her, you need to use my broker to sell them. He's going to get them sold for you. She didn't listen to me. She went with a different broker because that broker was connected to her franchise brand and she thought it would be advantageous. That broker did not bring her a single offer in a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
And so at the year mark, she started to engage with my broker. Once she got listed with my broker, she has had 4 offers in less than 30 days.
That's amazing.
It's
Wow.
amazing, but it's all about knowing the right people and like really
Right.
understanding how to tap into the network of experience,
Mhm.
right? So you got to find a very experienced first piece, the first cog in the wheel, and then lean on that person and their connections to create your suite of services and professionals to surround you with.
Exactly. Well, your connections, your network is your net worth, and as they say, what would be those steps to for people to go about finding a business coach? Where would they go? Can you just Google, or would it be by referrals? What's the best way to find a coach?
Oh, that's a difficult thing to do, quite frankly, because the coaching industry is saturated, and
Mhm.
it's saturated with there are no qualifications. You just have to hang a shingle and say, "Hey, I'm a coach and I'm going to teach you how to do ABC." So, the most important thing is to vet, vet,
Mhm.
vet, vet. So, you want to talk to their former clients. The hard part about that is they're never going to give you connections to former clients that were unhappy with them,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So you want to look at the reviews, any reviews you can get your hands on. If they have a podcast, you want to listen to their episodes, find out if their advice resonates with you. What kind of guests do they attract? Are they bringing in quality guests?
Mhm.
Um, those I would avoid. I see way too many people go to their local chamber of commerce, strike up a conversation with the person they're sitting next to who happens to be a business coach. They like the person as a person and they give them their money. That's what I did for my first coach. It was a mistake. They didn't know any more than I did,
Mhm.
right? So you have to look for someone who's done it, who's exceeded your success, who's actually done what you aspire to do. Have they built a multi-location company and sold it?
Yes.
That's who you want to learn from, right? You don't want to learn from the person who got the business coaching certificate at a 3-day course, which there are plenty out there, but hasn't really owned a business other than that one.
Absolutely. Walk the walk, like they say, and build that proof that someone has built it so that you can also build. My final question, April, this has been so amazing, and your journey and your experiences that you have, your journey is just so incredible. Could you share with us your 3 life lessons that our viewers can take away? What are the 3 life lessons that have taught you when you first started out in your career as an attorney? Share with us your life lessons.
Oh, 3 life lessons. Well, I would say one is failure is a catalyst.
Mhm.
It's a catalyst to one of two paths, either doubling your efforts or walking away.
Mhm.
And so you need to figure out what your patterns are with failure if you plan to become a business owner, because there's a lot of failure in business ownership. If
Right.
you are someone who fails at something and then abandons it and walks away, that's okay because you're looking for something that's more fulfilling. But in business ownership, you've got to be able to double those efforts and make it work. Um, I would say swag is another lesson, sanity, wealth, and gratitude.
Yeah.
That lesson is all about the and is the most important word in that phrase because it signifies that you can have all three of those simultaneously. You need to
Right.
stop
Mhm.
sacrificing your sanity trying
Mhm.
to attain wealth, or stop sacrificing your wealth in order to feel grateful, right? In order to
Right.
feel not greedy and those things. So you want to be able to have all of those at once. And then a final life lesson, and I can't say this enough, is the key to success is your personal evolution. You are the secret sauce. It's not the latest marketing tactic. It's not the business industry that you're in. It's none of that. It's you. You are the secret sauce to whether or not your business succeeds. And so you must invest in yourself first. Your
Absolutely.
business will only be able to grow as much as you grow. So if you're walking into your business with your only experience having been an employee, guess what? Your business is going to stall out at the level that an employee is capable of growing that business. You have to evolve and you have to become more. You have to become a manager mindset, and then an owner mindset, and then an entrepreneur, and then an elite entrepreneur, and
Yeah.
then an 8-figure entrepreneur, and then a 9-figure. You have to continue to invest in yourself and grow, and you're going to pull your business behind you. That's
Right.
how that works. So if you're investing in everything and everyone else first, then it's most likely not going to work.
Absolutely powerful. That's so great. April, where can people connect with you?
Well, I have a podcast. In fact, last week our podcast was just named number 10 in the world for business strategy. So I'd love if you
Congratulations.
thank you. I'd love it if you came over and listened to us on the Infinite Franchisee Show, where I drop business strategies for all small business owners, whether you're a franchisee or not. And
Mhm.
then other than that, you can find me at secretsauce.com, and that's spelled secretsos.com, where that's our academy and our business there. And then if you want to find me on socials, just look for Ask April Porter.
Amazing. That is so great. Well, I hope, each and every one, you got your pen and paper, you got your notes out, you were taking notes as to what April just shared with you, as to when you are starting a business and, the franchisee, you need to know what you're getting into, first of all. So you have to connect with talk with your CPA, your attorney, who is going to help you on this journey. So make sure that you absolutely do heed and follow, connect with April, who is going to help you and guide you in your business. So we look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Ask the Experts. But in the same time, we appreciate you, and I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the channel. If you have found this conversation valuable, and future episodes have been valuable to you, then I want you to, because this really helps us to bring value to you. So I want you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. But thank you so much to each and every one who tune into the episode, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now. Thank you so much, April. Appreciate your time.